I remember when we first met, it was in a clay conference in Manila. Thibault was one of the presenters at the conference, and I was like, man, I gotta get this guy to try our reporting platform. And I remember chasing him down after the presentation. He had a huge queue of people waiting to talk to him, and I was like, waiting my turn. And I was like, hey, you should check out this reporting platform. I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. And it took me 2 months of chasing him until I finally got him to give it a try.
I'm Thibault, the founder of Richly. We are a LinkedIn growth agency that helps B2B companies build predictable lead gen systems to get meetings with their ICPs on autopilot.
Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your position and what you do in your company?
Yeah, sure. I'm Thibault. I'm the founder of Richly. I'm French, based in Bangkok, Thailand. Have been for about 10 years. I've always been in sales kind of my whole life. And I started Richly, which is a multi-channel lead gen agency about 3 years ago. And what we do is we pretty much automate outreach campaigns across LinkedIn and email. So that's pretty much the gist of what we do. We work with clients from all over the globe in different industries. And my team is split into two groups. I have GTM operators that are responsible for scraping and reaching and kind of creating the best possible campaign list. And then I have key account managers that are responsible for strategy and handling client relationship.
What was one problem you were facing with your outreach reporting before you started using Outreach Magic?
Well, the main issue I had, there was two main things. The main thing I had is that being a multi-channel agency, we have like an automated flow where, if leads don't reply to emails, we push them to LinkedIn campaigns. If we can't find the emails, we push them to LinkedIn campaigns. I guess in that case, it wouldn't be multi-channel. But for the multi-channel leads, the data would sit in each of the sequencers platform, and we wouldn't have a way to kind of be like, okay, what's happening across both platforms for that one specific lead. So that was one, right? To have unified data across those two sequencers. And the second biggest problem is insights. So for me, when doing lead gen, yes, of course, the goal is to drive meetings for clients, but sometimes you just can't because they don't have good product market fit. You might not have a message market fit. Their offer might be bad. It might be not the right ICP. There might be a million reasons why. But if you don't have the insight to kind of diagnose why that's the case, then you're kind of screwed, right? So I looked at a lot of different kind of solutions. I had people pitch me crazy custom builds across Airtable, NAN, and whatnot. And then I found you guys, and you solved all of those problems in a couple clicks, pretty much.
I remember initially you were skeptical about trying the platform, so I had to chase you for 2 months to get you to jump on board. What was it that was holding you back from actually trying the platform?
Yeah, I was definitely skeptical because I was like, if I've been looking, I'm a very thorough person. When I look for solutions, I really kind of like look at every possible solution for that. So I've asked like a lot of people. I've asked every other agency owners out there, like, oh, how do you do that? And so they're like, oh, you can talk to these guys. They can do a custom build for you, or you could use this. You could use MCPs and everything. But I've tried many things. I thought that MCP wasn't as performing as I wanted it to be. When you send 20,000 emails per month for one client, and I don't know, like 5,000 LinkedIn events per month for that one client, like it takes MCP a lot of time to kind of go and check events across both and all that stuff. And I still find MCPs to come up with some errors and be like, oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, that's not correct. Here's the actual number, So I want something that's as error-proof as possible. And when you kind of presented me your product and you said that it was kind of built on the back of Looker Studio and some other kind of integrations, I was like, oh, I actually used to work with Looker Studio a lot in my previous job, so I know how robust the infra is and everything. And so yeah, I was skeptical, as one should be when they try new products. So that's why we only tested it, I believe, when we started on like 2 clients. And then once I saw the results and that it was actually working live and populating in real time, we kind of expanded that over to the rest of the clients.
What were you doing before Outreach Magic? Was it just spreadsheets, pen and paper? Did it not stick? Why did you want to find a different platform?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say what we were doing before because it's almost embarrassing compared to what we're doing now. But it was definitely not as good as this. The main 2 things I love about Outreach Magic, the first one is insights, right? That's not something that you have natively built into the platform, but that's something that we figured out how to kind of do together with our integration, right? I mean, for those other agency owners out here listening, what we do for Richly with Outreach Magic is that we pass a lot of information that we have in Clay, such as segmentation, company size, seniority of the role, and all these other things, so that in Outreach Magic, they would get kind of pre-normalized segments, and we can then select based on those kind of segments to see data for, I don't know, companies in the US versus UK, or leads that are C-level versus director, etc. I know you have a function like this already existing, but we kind of refined that. We made it a bit pretty much custom for Richly. So that's definitely the best thing, because my team now every month can be like, oh, what are the insights? Oh, well, we're seeing that US has 3x the reply rate than the UK. Or we see that, VP of sustainability are actually outperforming CEOs by a lot, or like all these kind of type of insights. So that helps us a lot to share to the client, and also to have direction on where to go next in the campaign. And the second best feature is the sender health, right? Being able to know why are bounces happening, what are the bounce codes, what email and mailboxes are performing the best, and all that stuff. And we now did together kind of like, you kind of showed me a really cool process which allows my team to do mailbox rotation a lot easier than what we were doing, a lot more proactive, as opposed to just checking for smart lead warm-up score, which were a bit kind of reactive and almost too late, right? Because if your score are doing bad in a warm-up tool, that means you're doing bad already in the real world, probably for some time.
Now, let's say a marketing director or an agency owner is listening to this interview. Was there any specific outcomes that you noticed that they should expect when they start using the platform?
On the first 3-4, there's a lot, but I mean, it's going to be a bit granular and everything for me to share. I would say that the biggest pros has been time saved for my team. It used to take my team like 2, 3, 4 hours per client per month to do monthly reports. Now it's like 20 minutes per client, right? So it's like a couple of screenshots. We actually use AI as well. I'm very looking forward to that integration you're going to have with AI, where we can ask AI in Outreach Magic for insights directly. We're doing that manually at the moment, extracting the data. But yeah, just the time saving reporting is a time saver. I mean, as an agency owner, my goal is to have something that's scalable and that's efficient, right? I want that every time I bring on a client, it's easy to install, easy to update, and easy to share to the client. And your tool just does that really well. So I'm super happy about that part.
What's your favorite feature across the entire platform? If I was to take one thing away, one feature away, which one would you miss the most? What is your favorite part about the platform?
It's kind of basic for like people that know Lucas Studio, but I would just say it's the embedded link, right? Just being able to just give that link to the client and be like, hey, anytime you've got a question, just open this. You'll see what's happening, what we're doing, what's working, who we're sending to, all that stuff. Amazing. Because like before, we used to have clients be like, oh, what are you doing? Can I see what's happening this week? Now it's like, you have the link. You can see, we're going to have a monthly report, but if you have any questions or you want to go in depth about what's happening, just click here and you can just, see everything. When we got started, you didn't have that many product demo videos. So what I did is I recorded my own kind of product demo for our clients. And I was like, here's the dashboard. Here's what it looks like. Here's what you can click and what you can see. So once we live our clients campaign, that's kind of part of our onboarding process. We always tell them, hey, here's the link. Here's the video on how to use it. If you've got any question, ask us. But this is kind of like the single source of truth that we have for your campaigns.
How has being able to cross-filter by job title, industry, headcount, those attribute trends, how has that made a difference inside of your business?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a lot easier to see insights, right? Like, I mean, now that we can also tag positives using the integration that we put in place, it's easy for us to see we can see. And that's one thing I know you didn't have when we started working together. And that's one thing I love about working with you, is that you're so kind of responsive to implementing new features based on feedback. And I told you, I mean, I always like to look at things as a funnel, right? So it's like looking at replies is cool, but what about positive replies, right? So now we have that 2 kind of level system. We look at replies per insight, so we can look at replies per country, per job title, per company size, per industry, whatever we want. But we can also do the same thing with like positive reply per etc. So it's just helped us a lot to know what's working better for our clients, as opposed to back in the days just trying to check and do that manually by exporting CSVs in Smart Lead and High-Reach and all that stuff. So that's, like I said, that's really been a game changer. We haven't played too much around, if I'm being honest, with the export lead function to re-push them in the sequencer, because we do that already in Clay. right? So we push and then we check when we push and we repush every X months, depending on the size of the TAM. So that's not something we've done too much of, but we use the data you give us to continue in expanding the TAM list based on what's really working for our client, right? So if we're segmenting per 3-4 industries and we see 2 that are outperforming the rest, we're going to focus on those 2. And same logic goes with like lead, seniority, country, and all that.
What has been your experience with Outreach Magic so far? Would you recommend the platform? Who do you think would benefit from it the most?
Well, I would say there's 2 really. It's like lead gen agencies that do multi-channel. It's a no-brainer, an absolute no-brainer to use Outreach Magic. I mean, first of all, you guys are very cost effective. It doesn't cost, like $5,000 to get started and a $3,000 retainer. I mean, it could cost you $3,000 if you've got like 35 clients and a million webhook plus, but it doesn't cost that for most agencies. So it's very cost efficient. Integration is really freaking simple. And like I said, I think that's one thing that's very important for agency owners is that how easy can you replicate that for every new client you're on board, right? So that's one thing I really love. And then all the insight and the stuff I just talked about. So I think for agency owners, no brainers, because the cost per client, per workspace, and the value you get from it is a no brainer. The other type of companies, I'd probably say any mid-market companies or funded startup and everything that takes outreach very seriously and that does so across, Smart Lead and HeyReach and all that stuff should also have that so that they can monitor deliverability and get those insights. The reason why I talk about deliverability first is because those type of company will probably have less knowledge when it comes to email infra, mailbox rotation, and all those stuff, as opposed to what an agency owner would, because the agency owners kind of live and breathe email infra, right? So they know what works, what needs to be done. But very often the big companies that do take cold outreach very seriously, they understand everything else. They just don't really know the whole infra setup because it keeps on changing. So I think it'll be very beneficial to them on top of what I mentioned for the agencies. Yeah, so agencies and any companies taking cold outreach seriously and doing so across email and LinkedIn at scale.